Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit, and I've got another interview for you. Someone very interesting indeed, from a game that has just recently been successfully crowdfunded, one of the most successful crowdfunding efforts of all time thus far when it comes to video games, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Adam Brennecke. He is the executive producer and lead programmer on Project Eternity. Welcome to the show.
Hi, TotalBiscuit. How's it going?
It's going very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all. It's my pleasure. So, I like to start off with something of a rather unusual question before I do the whole, hey, what's Project Eternity? Explain it to the audience. What I want to know is, you guys have recently completed this Kickstarter effort, a very successful one, in fact. Mm-hmm. But we hear a lot about Kickstarters as they're running. We don't hear a huge amount after it's finished. I want to know exactly what happens when that timer hits 0 and then all of the stuff you guys have to deal with, because it seems interesting to me and also rather hectic by the sounds of it.
Oh, we all take a big, long trip to Europe. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, we since we got funded, we start working on the game, and typically what that means is we start, it's very early in development, so that's what we call pre-production, and that's basically like the planning stage of the project. Games are really big projects, and they require a lot of R&D as well, research and development. And so that in pre-production, that's typically what we do. We have to schedule everything. We have to figure out where all that money is going to, and then we have to start working on the story of the game, creating the characters, and the artists get to work concepting out what the game's going to look like. So it's a lot of it's not terribly interesting work, but it's very important stuff to do.
Yeah, no question about that. So, now that that's out of the way, for those who have no idea what Project Eternity is all about, give us your sales pitch in 60 seconds or less.
Okay. So Project Eternity is it's a top-down, real-time, with pause role-playing game that harkens back to the Infinity Engine games that came out with Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 from BioWare, and Icewind Dale 1 and 2, and Planescape Torment from Black Isle Studios. And we kind of wanted to bring that back. There's not a lot of games that are like the Infinity Engine games right now, which is kind of a tactical, almost like an RTS type game, but it's very much an RPG where you have a party of 6 characters. You can control them, and there's lots of battle, and you kind of have to use your party to maximize their potential in combat. You also have a rich and very, very cool story with a lot of interesting characters that you get to meet along the way. And so that's kind of sums up what we're trying to do with Project Eternity.
68 seconds, not too shabby.
Okay.
Might have to shave a few off there for future interviews, one way or the other. All right, so what would you consider to be the most important aspect of Project Eternity, bearing in mind, as you pointed out, the very rich history that this series happens to have? And I think it would be fair to say that the success of the Kickstarter was very much based on people's fond memories of that kind of thing. So what exactly is it you are hoping to accomplish?
Well, we just want to, we're all really big fans of those types of games, and most importantly, there's a bunch of us at Obsidian that have worked on those games, Planescape Torment and Icewind Dale 1 and 2. There's a bunch of guys on the team that worked on those games, and we just felt that we really liked working on those games in the past. We all love those games, and I think we just wanted to bring those games back, since we haven't had the opportunity to work on something like that for 10 years, and that's just something that we always wanted to do, and Kickstarter, just gave us the opportunity to do it. And I think that, these games are really, really fun to play, and for some reason, the game industry really hasn't made these types of games and continued on that style of game.
Why do you think that is? There was this period of time when these games were very, very popular indeed.
Oh yeah.
So what on earth happened? Why did they suddenly fall off the face of the planet?
Well, that's a good question. I think I personally point to just the rise of you know, I guess publishers moving away from PC only titles, and BioWare kind of moved away from it, and since BioWare was kind of the where that kind of engine was created, they kind of moved towards 3D games, and with 3D you kind of have to make some changes to how the games are played. Those types of games are played. So if you saw it in like Jade Empire and Knights of the Old Republic, and Neverwinter Nights, you know, it kind of distancing themselves from the six-party top-down 2D game. And then publishers just, I think they want console games, you know, and Project Eternity and Infinity Engine, it doesn't really work on the console since you really need a mouse and keyboard to play the game.
So you don't feel that it could be adopted for use with a controller at all? It's an impossibility?
It's it would be pretty tough and you have to make a lot of concessions, and also there's a lot of especially with the Infinity Engine games and with Project Eternity, there's going to be a lot of dialogue, and I think a lot of people really enjoy the amount of dialogue and choices you have in dialogue, and we've seen on the consoles, you know, that a lot of dialogue gets trimmed down, and you have you know, like short little quips that you can kind of reply with, but you don't get the full, like, you know, full long sentence for each dialogue reply. So you know, there's little things here and there that kind of have changed the experience along the way in the last 10 years, and we kind of want to, you know, bring all those elements back on the table.
Seems reasonable. Of games released in the last 10 years, what would you say it was perhaps the most promising title in the RPG genre that was along the lines of the stuff that you're trying to create right now?
I'd say Dragon Age.
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
Yeah,
Why?
Dragon Age, and also Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2. I think Dragon Age actually did a really good job. I think that was BioWare's target for making Dragon Age, was to make it like Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
So, and I think they did a great job with it. I really enjoyed Dragon Age. So I think we want to kind of go. I think one thing that was kind of missing from Dragon Age is the pre-rendered backgrounds. I really think that adds a lot to the experience, where you have a very organic looking world, and I think we've shown with our screenshot. I don't know if you checked it out.
Yes, I've seen it, certainly.
Yeah, that first screenshot really shows that you can still get a lot of beautiful artwork in a 2D game, and you can still make 2D look freaking awesome. So I think that's one thing that was kind of missing from Dragon Age, but I thought Dragon Age was a great game, and I hope we can make something that is very good as well.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree on that, actually. But playing Dragon Age on PC did give me that Baldur's Gate vibe and the Neverwinter Nights vibe, especially when you zoomed out to the pseudo-isometric kind of view. Now, I would like to talk about the graphic style of Project Eternity, because going for the whole pre-rendered thing is interesting, but there are some criticisms of that particular design in that it doesn't necessarily take advantage of the advancements in technology. Now, the screenshot looks good. Obviously, we haven't seen it in motion, so that could be an entirely different kettle of fish. But pre-rendered backgrounds have been around for a long time. I remember being very impressed by the pre-rendered backgrounds of Resident Evil 2, for instance. Yep. And they actually still look pretty good to this day. They're not great, but they're certainly passable. So what have you been able to do with the pre-rendered style, bearing in mind 2012 technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that we've been actually working on in the last month, is kind of what can we do with today's technology with a 2D rendered background. And we've been actually, and it's pretty incredible, some of the stuff that we can do with current technology, with shaders and you know, fancy graphics cards of today. One thing that we've been looking into is doing dynamic lighting actually on the 2D image. And our tech guys are working on some crazy stuff, and you can actually have a light on a character or a torch or something, and that actually illuminates the 2D image correctly, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of it's weird when we first saw it in action, because it's like it's a flat picture, but it's being rendered with a 3D light. So it's that kind of stuff. I think our characters are 3D, so we can use some fancy stuff on our characters. So we are looking at doing like rim lighting and some fancy shaders for that. So the game should look significantly better, and we also have higher resolution everything. So the maps will be very high resolution compared to the Infinity Engine games.
Fair enough. Now, what I would say about the pre-rendered style is that it does kind of limit the camera angles that are available. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't. Since you have to render the image it's called orthographic perspective. There's no perspective projection. I mean, orthographic projection. There's no perspective on the scene. So it kind of looks odd when you first see it, since you don't really have a vanishing point in the scene. That's getting kind of technical, but
we love the technical, by all means.
But yeah, so you can't move the camera. You can zoom in and out, but you can't rotate the camera or get a different vantage point.
Now, does that make the game easier to make, or does it actually introduce new challenges into the design?
Yeah, I think overall it's easier. You don't have to really worry about, since you just have an image that you're displaying. You use Maya or 3D Studio Max, and you just render an image out, and you have to do some fiddling behind the scenes to make sure characters can walk on it and go behind objects and stuff like that. But overall, I think it's much easier to deal with, which is nice for our project, because since we don't have like a huge team working on this game, it's kind of nice to not worry about some of the problems with 3D.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to some of the core mechanics of the game. I'm interested to know as much as possible, really, about the combat engine. We keep hearing, of course, that it's based upon the old Infinity Engine games, Black Isle style and BioWare. Are there any advancements, however, that have been introduced into combat?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're using Unity, so we have to kind of build everything from the ground up. So we're not, and the other thing is we're not using Dungeons and Dragons rule set. The Infinity Engine games were based on 2nd edition and then 3rd edition in the later ones. So we have the kind of flexibility to make our own RPG system, and we have some of the best guys in the RPG business designing the rule set. Tim Kaine, who was the original designer on Fallout, and he has 30 years experience in the game industry. He's doing our rules system. So it's nice that we don't have to be tied to Dungeons and Dragons, because Dungeons and Dragons is a turn-based game. And in the Infinity Engine games, you have to make some concessions on how the turn-based style of game got converted into the real time. So we don't have those problems. We can kind of develop the rule system for computers, which is a nice thing that we can do. But do you have any specific questions for the rule system?
That's a good question, in fact. It's just, it's nice to hear that, of course, it's moving away from the D&D style. As you pointed out, that was very limiting. I actually remember playing many MUDs back in the day that ran in real time, and yet we were still using things like color spray and whatever the heck, the flame touch and magic missile and things like that. It's like, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the Middle Earth universe or whatever, and yet it was in there anyway. So it is nice to see things decoupling from that particular style.
We still really want to base everything on D&D. Like, we want to keep it in that style, because that's what players are expecting, and we want to make sure that we pitched a game that was based on Infinity Engine, so we want to make sure that we keep in that
Yeah.
that style.
So you don't want to depart too far away from that.
No,
So I suppose
no.
like a question that I've got in terms of the combat mechanics would be how much reliance exactly is there on the standard Holy Trinity tank healer DPS kind of model? Is that something that you're essentially going to have to do, or are there ways around it?
That's a good question. Since we are a party-based game, and you can create, you can recruit companions that fill roles in the party, and we have one of our stretch goals was called the Adventurer Hall, and that's a place where you can make your own characters. So each class, each character in the game has its own class. So we have 11 classes. So we have like the priest, and we have the rogue, we have the wizard, we have the fighter, and we have all the other classes like barbarian. We have a cipher class, which is like a psionicist. We do want those classes to feel like you're playing. Like the fighter needs to feel like he's a fighter. And he needs to, do the things that fighters do in combat. So we do kind of have the. I'm not sure if we have the Holy Trinity. Because one thing that we want to do is make sure that all the classes are really good in combat. We don't want like a heal. Like the priest is not a healer class.
Okay.
So the priest is actually really good in combat as well. And we've shown in our character, Cadgun, who's our female priest that we've been showing off in concept art. She's fully decked out in full plate mail. And she has a gun too. So she looks pretty badass. And so she can handle herself in combat situations. And same thing with the fighter. The fighter can actually, we're looking at ways for the fighter to actually heal himself in combat, so he doesn't have to rely on a healer class to buff him up or heal himself.
Fair enough. Now, let's move on to some of these stretch goals, because there were quite a few of them, and by the looks of it, you reached every single last one of them.
Yes.
I believe via PayPal donations, you were able to push past the 4 million mark. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the whole enhance the whole game thing was going on. So I'd like to start before we go into any specifics, and there's many things I would like to talk about here, is how do you actually calculate these things? How do you put a monetary value on these particular upgrades?
Yeah. So what we do with that is we kind of see how many people we have on the team, and kind of what can we do with those people. So it's basically like we kind of figure out, well, okay, let's figure out the salary of the employees. If we ask for another $100,000 or another $200,000 for a stretch goal, that means we can hire a few more people onto the team. Mm-hmm. And that means we could probably add a few more features to the game. So that's kind of how we look at it. We had a base feature set in mind when we pitched the project, and then we're like, okay, we can do this if we can add another person on the team, another designer, another artist, or another programmer. And so we kind of, we kind of based our stretch goals on that. It's a little bit tricky, but I think we did a pretty good job not to bite off more than we can chew.
Yeah, I suppose that's always a risk, and indeed, when it comes down to biting off more than you can chew, I think perhaps the largest thing, it takes up the most space on your Kickstarter page out of anything else, would be the Endless Paths Mega Dungeon. This thing looks bloody huge. So tell me about this Mega Dungeon. It seems fairly self-explanatory, but I want to know specifics. How is it constructed? How long would it take to finish in terms of actual gameplay, and why would someone in their right mind go into it to begin with?
Yeah, the Endless Paths was we developed the idea, and we're trying to figure out some cool thing to do with, try to get people more involved with telling their friends about the Kickstarter, and we based the dungeon levels on how many backers we got and how many likes we got on Facebook as well. So we're just trying to encourage people to spread the word about Project Eternity. So we came up with the Endless Paths, and I think we got up to 15 levels of the mega dungeon, and we want to make it an optional dungeon, so you don't have to go through the whole thing if you don't want to. But we kind of want to make a cool dungeon crawl experience. even something like it could even be like Diablo, the original Diablo, where it was just a big dungeon crawl. We have a lot of fun with dungeon crawling at Obsidian. We really like that kind of stuff, and so it's going to be optional. We kind of want you to kind of hint at there's a lot of levels in the dungeon for the player, so we might have a quest or two for the first few levels to get you kind of in there, and then we'll have like a staircase that goes down further into the dungeon to hint at that there's more down there to explore. And then the dungeon will get harder as you progress down into the depths of the dungeon. So it'll probably be pretty challenging at the very lowest levels.
Fair enough. So there's a couple of other mechanics I'd like to look at, so stuff in the stretch goals. Crafting and enchanting was mentioned at 2.4 million. Do you have any more information about how that's actually going to work?
We're currently developing that right now.
Okay.
So I can't say a whole lot besides what we've said on the Kickstarter site. So
okay,
that's one thing that, crafting usually just to talk about it. It's something that comes a little bit later in pre-production on creating the rules for crafting and stuff like that. Since right now we're still figuring out what kind of items you have in the game. So before you can craft any items, we need to know what kind of weapons do we actually give the player, what kind of armor sets do we have, and stuff like that. So
yeah, I guess it would all be very much tied into that stuff, and if it's not done yet, then it's a little bit tricky. So
yep.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. All right, there's probably one more thing within this list that I'd like to know about, assuming that you have done anything with it. Now, I've never really understood the obsession with player housing, and yet, of course, this was the 2 million stretch goal. So why do you think it is that players so desperately seem to want their own house in a single-player game?
That's a good question. I think it's a place where the player can feel safe. It's nice to have a home. It's nice to have a place that you can always go back to. And it's usually player houses are cool because they're always changing, and you can kind of like make it your own thing in the world. You can upgrade it. You can you put little trinkets that you found on your adventures in it. And we have the idea where you can upgrade the player house into your stronghold, and the stronghold's like it's like a more advanced version of your player house where you actually have you can recruit people to like a blacksmith to craft you items. You can have a storefront set up in your stronghold, and you can maybe recruit mercenaries to protect it from raiders or something like that. So I think it's I'm kind of with you where I sometimes I don't really get it in a lot of ways, but I feel that players really like having their a house in the world. So
yeah, certainly. You've got to cater to that. It doesn't really matter what you as the developer like per se. If the guys are really into that, then that's something that you certainly need to cover. So let's move on to storytelling, because quite frankly, a lot of the legacy of Planescape Torment was based on how well it told its story.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to ask, why do you think that Planescape Torment was so well received? What do you think it did right that other games failed to do when it comes to delivering that story?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think the writing is so good in Planescape Torment, it just blows everything else out of the water. And there's a lot of it. So if it was almost like an interactive book in a way where you had just great writing, and it was awesome because you could actually talk to the characters in the book, and you could change. You could actually change the story in some ways and kind of do your own thing. So it was almost like play your own book in a way. And I can't really think of any other game that offered that type of experience. And I think the story was so memorable to a lot of people. And you just especially compared to other games during that same time period, it just blew everything out of the water. So I think that's why it's such a memorable game and such a great game.
Now, there are, of course, criticisms of Planescape Torment. Some people will disagree with pretty much everything anyone ever says on the internet, so that's just the way of things. But one of the criticisms I've seen leveled at it is that Planescape Torment was very wordy, as in you could get bogged down in the writing. Now, there are certain expectations of Project Eternity, yet you are now making a game in 2012. So I have to ask, where do you find the balance? How would you write this game in such a way as to present a really fantastic story, a very memorable one, and yet not get people bogged down in text?
Yeah. Well, thankfully we have Chris Avallone on the team, and he is the guy that wrote a lot of Planescape Torment. And he's learned a lot. I think Torment came out in '98. So there's been a lot of time, and he's been working in the game industry since then and making a lot of games. And not just him, but all of us have learned a lot of ways of, making sure that we tell stories like in a way that is not overbearing, and we don't kind of weigh the player down in too much text, but we still make the story good and interesting and memorable. And for example, a great game that we've done at Obsidian was Mask of the Betrayer for Neverwinter Nights 2, and that a lot of people hail that as like a game like Torment. George Zeitz did the writing for that game, and he was one of our stretch goals, by the way.
Yes, he was.
So we have a lot of talented guys on the team, and they know how to tell a story, and they just have a lot of experience doing it now. And that goes for everything on the game, not just story. I think we've learned a lot since making the Infinity Engine games, and we'll apply all of that to Project Eternity.
Now, the risk, I suppose, with a title like this is that you have so many great ideas, and yet you have a very specific budget. You guys raise the cash, this is the money you've got to play with, and the dreaded feature creep may come into play. So where exactly do you draw the line? Is this a case of what we've put on the Kickstarter page is what we're going to make, and there won't be anything else extra? We're not even considering stuff that we haven't discussed before. How does that work?
Well, at the end of the day, we need to make a good game, and that's kind of my role as executive producer, is to making sure that we're on track with what we can do and what we promise to do, and making sure that the project is planned really well so we can deliver everything at the end of the day, and all the stuff is really high quality, and people get the game that they expect to get. And so that's the role of the producer on the project. So that's kind of a big responsibility, but that's what we're working on right now in pre-production. Is a lot of scheduling and a lot of making sure that we have all the features down on paper, and we discuss it all, and we make sure that we know what we're doing before we enter production. Because right now the team is actually really small. Once we hit production, we're gonna put a bunch of people on the team and start building the game for reals. It's just a lot of planning and a lot of making sure that we spend our money really, really well and wisely.
Fair enough. And one final question that I would like to ask you here. Can you confirm or deny Boo or Boo lookalike at some point in this particular game?
I think we haven't discussed hamsters yet. We have discussed animals. So
do you feel that hamsters should be shifted up the priority list? Maybe. Like now, for instance?
Like now. Yeah, we have discussed animals, and we have discussed pets. We are giving away a pet for the Kickstarter backers. I think that was one of the rewards. I'm not sure what level that was at. So we do have some plans. I don't want to spoil anything, but hamster might be in the cards.
All right, excellent. That's what I like to hear. Okay, Adam, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please do go and check out Project Eternity and its current status, which is available over at eternity.obsidian.net. That is eternity.obsidian.net. The Kickstarter is, as we pointed out, over, and the projected release date, according to said Kickstarter, is April 2014. So quite a ways to go on this. Once again, Adam, thanks for taking time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
No problem at all. My name has been TotalBiscuit, ladies and gentlemen, here with a Project Eternity interview. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.